run, right? If everything goes well, what should happen? The robot should go to this website. It will get all these feedbacks one by one, put it into an Excel. For each and every row, it will now go to the sentiment analysis, analyze the feedback. We are using our model which was non-retrainable, so we don't have to provide much of the stuff, right? So the automation completed. Let's go to the output first, and you can see here the data, the feedback, and what is the score, positive or negative, right? So all this is coming for you directly here, right? Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the next video in the UiPath AI Center series, where we are covering the AI Center in a step-by-step manner. Today in this video, I am going to create an automation in a step-by-step manner. The name of the automation would be app reviews using automation and sentiment analysis. Now this would be a use case which would be a combination of RPA, UiPath, robotics process automation, and the AI Center together. My name is Mukeshkala. I am a 4 times UiPath most valuable professional, certified solution architect, advanced RPA developer. I am also a certified trainer, and recently I have also got the LinkedIn top voice. Feel free to connect me on the social media and I would be happy to be part of your network. Also, I have a small WhatsApp group where you can just scan this QR and join the WhatsApp community. I have a couple of more developers along with me in that group, so whenever you have some questions, queries, you can post there. Also, whenever there is a new video getting uploaded, you get a direct notification on your mobile phone, right? In case you are absolute beginner to the UiPath AI Center and you do not have the background, I would request you to please watch the previous 3 videos that will act as a base for this video, because for this video you require the enterprise trial of AI Center and you might need a little knowledge of how the different components work, right? So in case you are not aware of the AI Center, please do watch the previous 3 videos in the series. Now, before I directly jump to the coding, first of all, we should understand that what is the background of the automation, what problem this automation is trying to solve. And that is when you actually create the automation, you would be able to relate that why we are creating this. And this will also give you ideas where you can implement your own use cases as well. Okay, so let's talk about the background. Okay, so let's say I have a company which is developing applications for Android, for iOS, or you can think it of any company which develop applications which is available in the marketplace. Okay, now these applications are a mobile based application. This can be used on mobile or in the web. Now these applications are being used by a lot of people across the globe. Now when the people use, they have some feedback. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative. They comment, they like the content, they dislike something, they put their reviews. Now in the enterprise, I have a group of team, or I would say a group of people whose job is to analyze these reviews and analyze this feedback, because for an app development company, reviews and feedback is something which is crucial for them. They want to understand the sentiments of the user, whether they are happy, they are not happy, they are neutral, or how exactly the app is behaving, right? And depending on that, they might need to take some action. But as of now, you would see this complete process is manual. So somebody has to log into the web page. Let's say if it is an app store, so they go to the app store, they open the application, they read the reviews, they may download it, and then they read it, and then they try to analyze the sentiments, right? What is the problem here? The problem here is the time. User feedback is very much crucial and which should be taken in account. Now the developer needs to sift through hundreds and thousands of feedback to gain the insights, and sometime if there is any important feedback which is missed, it can impact the app, right? So this is a quick background that what is the current state in the company. Now if we talk about the challenges, right, what are the challenges? The first challenge which we just discussed, it's a time consuming. The developers are spending a number of hours reading and categorizing the reviews, positive, negative or neutral, right? Inefficiency. Important insights can be overlooked with a sheer volume of the comments. When the reviews are in more thousands, lakhs of reviews, right, you might miss some important details. Delayed response. Because you are not able to read each and every feedback, you are not able to respond to them. So if somebody has given a feedback, the feedback loop is very much slow, which sometimes may lead to the customer dissatisfaction. The next one is the inconsistent analysis. Different reviewers might interpret the same comments differently, leading to the inconsistent data. So how about I have an AI model which actually take care of this, so that I know that yes, all the comments, all the reviews are reviewed in a same manner, right? So these are some of the current challenges. What about the solution? If I talk about the solution, we can have an automated review retrieval. So there I can have an RPA robot. When I say RPA, I mean RPA UiPath robot. That robot can go to the app store and extract all the latest reviews, so that the person who has to review does not have to manually go and download the reviews one by one. This process can be scheduled in the orchestrator. We are not going into the scheduling robotics framework and all, because that is already covered, and I believe that you guys understand what is scheduling. If no, please watch the scheduling playlist and you will get a proper idea. Okay, so we can have this automation scheduled, which means that I can run this automation, let's say every 3 days, right? So every 3 days it goes to the website, extract the information, so somebody does not need to do it manually, right? Now sentiment analysis. Using the AI Center, this tool categorizes the reviews positive, negative and neutral. Then we can have a dashboard visualization. Once I have the data, we can share these results to the developer and they can easily visualize in the form of a dashboard. And not only this, we can have actionable insights, which means that based on the numbers, based on the score, the developer can now not only get the insight but also get something which is called actionable insights, where they say that okay, this is the main problem area, this is the main pain point which the people are facing, so let's focus on this area, right? So this is the solution, right? Now whenever we talk about a problem, a solution, we need some benefit, right? What would be the benefit of implementing this huge solution? And the answer is simple: time efficiency. You automate the tedious task, you save a lot of time, you improve the accuracy, right? Provide consistent and accurate sentiment analysis, faster response time, the quicker reaction to the user feedback, enhancing the customer satisfaction, data driven decision. Now if you have to take some decision that okay, this feature in the app should be removed or this feature in the apps need improvement, right? So based on the data you can actually take the decision. So that's why it's called data driven decisions, right? So this is a quick background that what is the problem, what is the solution proposed, and what are the benefits, right? So before we start any use case, these are the 3 things which all of us should understand, right? So if you are able to follow along till this point, please do comment that you understood the problem statement, and I would understand that yes, people are able to follow along this tutorial. Okay, so I'll wait for your comment, and now let's move forward. Okay, so now that we have understand the problem statement, I am going to go to a website which is this, which is Play Store, right? play.google.com. You can just open it by let's say going to browser, and you can say Play Store, right? You can do it on any website which provide review, right? It can be App Store, it can be any product website, right? So I go here and I click on this one, which is called the Google Play, right? And now here you have all these products which are available, right? So let's say today I want to get the feedback for this client, right? So I can always write an RPA robot, I can go to this, and then here you have something which is called reviews, right? So as you can see here, we have 1.85 million reviews for this one. Now I don't know whether this feedback is positive or this feedback is negative, right? So I can click on this button which says see all reviews, and it is going to show me all the reviews of this thing, right? So now here all of this task can be easily done by a RPA robot, right? So for that we are going to write a quick RPA robot which is going to first extract this data, and then we are going to run a sentiment analysis. Okay, so since Instagram is a popular app and it has a lot of feedback, so what I have done is I have got this feedback from Instagram, right? You can put it on any app, you can do it on Amazon, any set of product. The idea is simple. You need to have a list of feedbacks where you can see it can be on any website, let's say travel website, it can be on the feedback for the food, it can be feedback for the flights, it can be feedback for any travel destination, right? So wherever you have feedback which is in a structured way, you can apply the same robot. Okay, let me know in the comments if you got any new idea listening to this. Okay, so now let's go to UiPath Studio. Okay, so I'm in my UiPath Studio. I'll simply go here and I'll create a new process, right? And I will call this process as sentiment analysis. You guys can follow along with me using AI Center, right? And I will put my channel name so that it's easy for me to recall it. Good practice. Always have a description to your process. And I'll just go here and I'll hit create. Okay, now you might have noticed here I have not created this in a framework, right? Because that's not the agenda for this video. In a typical scenario, whenever you work for any enterprises, you are going to use this guy, which is the Robotics Enterprise Framework, which is suited for the enterprise level automation, right? And particular this one is something which is RE framework for linear processes, right? So you might need to tweak the RE framework. We have already discussed all of this in the Robotics Enterprise Framework series, right? So I'm not spending any time here on the RE framework, config, best practices. The whole idea here is to understand the AI Center. Okay, so that's why I have just created a sequence. You guys can practice this same into the RE framework, right? To get a more visibility of the RE framework. Okay, now I am in my sentiment analysis workflow, right? So I'll go here and I'll create a new sequence. Okay, I'll call this sequence as scrape the data. Okay, scrape the data is a website or a sequence which is going to scrape the feedbacks from the data, right? It can be the feedback from any website. I am going to take this one because I like this one, right? You can go with any of the website of your choice. Okay, now first thing first, we have to scrape this data. So I'll go back to my UiPath Studio and I click on this button which is called the table extraction, right? Since we are in the modern design experiences, which is the default experience in UiPath, you guys should have this same window. In case you are not having this, chances are there you might be in the classic design experiences. Okay, so how do you convert classic to modern? What are the benefits of modern? Again, all of that is covered in the modern experience series. Okay, but mostly you would be in the modern design because that's the default experience. Okay, so I'll go here and I click on this button which is table extraction. When I click on the table extraction, a small window pops up. It says me select the data you want to extract, and you can see that this is all the structured data, right? Now first of all, before you grab any feedback, the first thing you would have to decide that what data you want to analyze, right? So as you can see that we have a lot of feedbacks here, right? The person who has given the feedback, it can be their email ID, when the feedback was given, what is the actual feedback, and how many people actually found this review helpful, right? This can be a deciding factor for me to decide whether a lot of people feel the same thing or not, right? So first thing is you have to decide that what feedback you want to grab or what data you want to grab, right? So I have decided I'm going to get, let's say, the feedback, how many people found it helpful, and the date, right? You can also get the email ID or the person name, that again depend on your use case, right? So for me, I'll go here and I click on this button, select data to extract, and I'll point on the first one, which is this date, which simply means when the feedback was posted. I click on that, and now it will skim through all this thing and it will try to collect the information that whether it is able to create a pattern or not, right? And you can see here it is able to extract 40 feedbacks. And now in the modern, this is the best part about the modern, right? We can directly change the column name here, confirm, right? Already explained in the previous series, not spending much time here, right? Now the second data which I want to extract is this feedback. So select data to extract, and let's point it to the feedback, right? Which is the actual information which I want to feedback, right? You can see it's still able to get all the 40 records. So I'll go and change this to feedback. Okay, and I'll just say confirm, right? This is still your plain RPA, right? So all of this is done by the RPA, still no use of AI Center, right? And the next thing is how many people found this useful. So I say select data to extract, and I just point it to this guy. Okay, and I'll call this as helpful, right? How many people found helpful? So that's it, right? You can add more data as per your requirement, right? I'll just say confirm, right? As of now my data is not spanning across multiple pages, so I will just put a limit here, right? You can adjust a lot of things here, for example settings, right? So how many data I want to extract. So for example, you want to have max rows, max pages, all of that you can configure. Or let's say you want to have some limit, right? So I can go here and I say max rows, I want to extract only, let's say 35, right? Because you have 40, or let's take 40, right? Because in this page we only have 40. In case you have more data, you can actually go and set it to all the pages, no limit, max pages, all of that is available, right? Because but we are doing the demo, so that's why I'm sticking to 40. You can leave it blank and it will extract all the feedbacks for you. Okay, so I'll set it to 40 and I say save and close. And let me quickly click on this button, which is the preview, and let's see how does the data look like. Okay, so I have the date, I have the feedback, how many people found it helpful, and then you can also get the person name, right? I just quickly want to say you something here. If you get the person name, or let's say in your use case you have the person email ID, right? Based on the feedback you can write a custom email to the person also. So let's say this feedback is very good, right? It's say it is my favorite, right? So you want to just say thank you, so you can also grab the customer email ID during this process and send them a thank you email, right? So that they know that okay, somebody has appreciated my review, right? So you can also do that if you have the email ID option here, right? So once this is done, a good part here about is you can also export this as CSV and you can directly do whatever the analysis you want to do, right? But I don't want the CSV. This looks good. I'll close this. I'll go here and I'll say save and close. And that completes my automation of extraction. Once the data is extracted, I simply want to write it back into the project. So I'll go to the project folder and I'll add a folder. I'll call this as the data folder, right? And in this folder we are going to save the data, right? In the real-time automation, all of this would be in a different location, C drive, D drive. You want to create the folder date wise, you want to create the folder every 3 days, right? All of that is your RPA implementation, not part of this video. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to store this feedback into this data folder so it's easy to retrieve, right? So I'll go here, and once the feedback is extracted, I simply go here and I'll just use an activity called right range, right? Excels right range workbook, drag and drop it here. Okay, and it's asking me where do you want to keep the data. So I say that I want to keep my data into the data folder which I just created, and feedback.xlsx, you can put it in CSV also. What do you want to call the sheet name? I want to call the sheet name as data. Where is the data table? The data table is the extract data table, right? Important thing in the right range, please do mark this option which I always forget, which is the add header, otherwise you won't get the header, right? Now a quick thing which I wanted to tell you guys is that whatever configuration you have done in the extract wizard, you have an option to edit those into the properties as well, right? This 40 max rows, it's not like that you have configured so you cannot change it. All of that is still customizable for you here. Okay, and that completes the scrape data workflow, which will simply go scrape the data and put it into our data folder, right? So I am going to do a quick exception handling, right? Good practice. I'll just go and surround it with try catch, right? I'm doing a very high exception handling because it's not a end-to-end solution, but still you need to have some sort of exception handling so that you know that which part of automation is breaking, right? So I have done a try catch, right? And I would just like to put it as error, right? And I will just log the exception. I say exception in extraction. Okay, and I'll just like to print the exception dot toString. Great, I'll save this and let's try to run it. I'll go here and I'll say run the file, right? If everything goes well, what should happen? The robot should go to this web page. It should extract all that information from the web page and put it into the data folder for me to do the next set of processing, right? So in the real-time automation, the links, all of this would be coming from the config file, right? So as of now, it's hard coded here, this guys, right? So in the real-time automation, you are going to use the RE framework and put all of this into the config file. Okay, let's go to the project folder, hit a quick refresh, and I can see that I have got something which is called the feedback.xlsx. Let's try to quickly open it. And you have the date, you have the feedback, and you also have these details that how many people found it helpful, right? That is still a matrix for you to decide what do you want to do with the automation, right? Cool. So far so good, right? So we were successfully able to extract the data from our app review, right? Similarly, let's say you are using it on any other application. I believe you would be also able to reach till this point, right? So in case you are able to extract the information for the feedback, at least please do comment that the extraction is completed from any of the website, right? It can be any web website, any shopping website, travel website, right? So if you are having some data till this point, we are good to go to the next step, right? I'll wait for your comment whether extraction was done or not done. Okay. Okay, so once we have the feedback, the next thing which we want to do is create a ML model which we can utilize, right? So I'll go back to my browser. I can close this one. That's not required. That's not required. And we'll go back to our automation cloud. Okay. So now in the automation cloud, first thing first, we will go to our AI center, right? I hope you guys still have the AI center, which we just activated in the previous videos, right? So now what I'm going to do here is I'll go here and I'll create a new project by clicking on this guy, which is the create project. Okay, we'll name the project. The name of the project is app review SM, simply stand for sentiment analysis, and I'll put my channel name, right? Good practice. Sentiment analysis for app review, right? All of this we have discussed in the previous videos, that what is this restrict access, and so not spending much time here. So we'll directly go here and I create the project. Okay, so once you have created the project, you should be in the dashboard window, right? Now whenever we talk about the sentiment analysis, if you remember from our previous discussion, we have a couple of different kind of ML skill. Some of them are provided by UiPath, some of them are provided by partners, and you can bring your own model as well, right? When we talk about the sentiment analysis, the good news is it is provided directly by UiPath for us, right? So we do not need to train it, which simply means that you do not need to provide the data set, you do not need to label it. All you can do is just directly go to the ML packages and you can select the package which you want to use, right? So data set and data labeling is not required because we are trying to use a model which is directly provided by UiPath without any training, right? Now where this is located, so that's why in the data set and the data labeling we are not doing anything, right? We have discussed all of this into the previous video, so please do have a watch in case you don't understand what do we do in each sections, right? So I'll directly go to ML packages. Now in the ML package you have three options, right? You can upload your own model, you can import a model from a different AI Center project, or you can easily use the out-of-box packages, right? So the description says if you want to use a ML package which is developed by UiPath or any open source community, right? Remember we discussed that while using the ML packages you can use something which is from a open source community. And the good news is the sentiment analysis model is a open source model which is developed by Facebook, so we do not need to have any training, we can directly go and utilize it, right? So I'll go to ML packages, click on this guy which is out of box packages, right? And here into the open source package we have something which is called language analysis, right? So I go to ML package, out of open source packages, and click on this guy which is the language analysis. As soon as I click on that, you would have these options. You might have more or less depending on which version you are or what time you are looking this video, right? So now you have something which is called sentiment analysis. I can click on that and it will have all the details that this model is open source by the Facebook resource. It is automatically trained on some of the data. It says that what is the format, right? All of this we are going to require when we actually see the output, right? That's why all of this information will come in picture, but it says that depending on your input, it will give you the feedback as positive, negative, neutral, with a confidence score as well, right? And the important thing, this is not a retrainable. That means you cannot train it on your own version, right? So this is a pre-trained model. All you have to do is just go to the ML package and click on this button, which is submit. And now it's asking me what is the package name, right? So for me, the package name is we are doing the app review, so I will call it app review underscore sentiment analysis, right? Package version, this is the description. You can change it, but I like to keep it as the default one, and the output here would be a JSON, right? So now here the output description, it simply tells that whenever you are going to use this model, you are going to get the response in a JSON format. So you might need to have a little bit of JSON tweaking, which I'm going to teach you anyways in this tutorial, right? So no further settings here, just provide the package name and click on this guy, which is the submit. After that, you would be coming to this screen where you would have the same information which you just put, right? And all of this we have already discussed, so you can hit a quick refresh to again see what is the status, right? So it says that I am using all this version, the training version is 0 when you have created, which Python you are using, and the status is undeployed. Okay, now since it is a model which is not retrainable, as discussed in the previous videos, we do not have an option to run the pipeline, right? Even if you go here and you try to create a new pipeline, you won't be able to select the ML package. It says that no trainable ML package was found because that model is not retrainable, right? So the pipeline option is also not valid for this use case, right? Because it is a non-retrainable model. Okay, now the important thing, as we discussed, we need something which is called ML skill, because that is what an RPA developer require, right? So I'll directly come to ML skill, and here I can create on this button, which is create new. I am asking it to create an ML skill which can be utilized in the UiPath automation. So it's asking me, Mukesh, give your skill a name. So I am saying that my skill name is app review underscore sentiment analysis underscore skill, right? Which package? This is the same package which we created. I hope you guys remember where this is coming from. This is directly coming from the ML package, right? Whatever version you have, this is available here. Minor version is 0 because we don't have any version, so that's why the minor version is available here. It's 0, right? Now app review, good practice, always try to put a description. So I would say app review sentiment analysis. Okay, spelling is wrong. Okay, now here there is something which is called make the ML skill public. In case you want to use this ML skill outside the UiPath environment, you can enable this one, otherwise you can leave it to the default settings, right? Now there is an option, in case this skill is not being utilized, do you want to undeploy it? And I think that's a good practice, right? So I'll just select here 1 week, which means that if I'm not using this skill for 1 week, automatically go and undeploy this skill, right? Now once that all of that is done, you just go here and click on this button, which is create, and it should create the ML skill, right? Now you can see here the status is deploying, which means that this is still not deployed. It will take some time to deploy this ML skill. As of now, I do not have used the GPU option, right? In case you have an option of GPU in your enterprise version, this thing would be a little bit faster, right? So once you have done this, this status will change to deployed, right? So I'll hit a quick refresh. Might take some time depending on the infrastructure, so you have to wait till the status changes to deployed. Okay, so after close to I think 6 or 7 minutes, close to 10 minutes, let's say, right? So this skill is now deployed, right? And you can see the status is available for the ML skill, right? Also, if I go to the ML package now, where we have this ML package which was created, the status here is deployed. So the ML package is now deployed and the ML skill is now available, right? Please remember, the ML package was here undeployed, right? So the status is now changed to deployed. Here you can see that the status is now deployed and the ML skill was also not available. Now the ML skill status is available, right? So both of this is important for you to get started into the UiPath. Not this one, but at least the ML skill should be available so that you can use it in your UiPath Studio. Okay, once you have this, let's go back to our solution. Back to my UiPath Studio, where we have this feedback and I have this solution, right? So I'll go to the project and here I am going to create a new sequence, right? I'll call this sequence as get the sentiments. Okay, and I'll go here and I'll simply click on this button which is create. Okay, so first we'll try to create it for a single feedback and then we'll simply run it in the loop, right? That's the whole idea. Now, whenever you talk about the sentiment analysis, which is a model which is in the AI Center, which is the ML skill which we have deployed, I have to use that ML skill into my automation. So if I go to the activities and if I just simply type here ML skill, right, I am not getting any activity which is called ML skills. That because the reason is I have not added the dependencies for the ML skills, right? So the important thing, go to the dependencies and click on manage, right? Same like for doing Excel, we use Excel automation activities. So same like this, I'll go to the all packages and I will search for the ML activities. So I just go here and I'll say UiPath.ml. Okay, and it gives you this package UiPath.ml services.activities, right? So this is the package you need to import in order to get the ML skill to be used in the UiPath automation flow. So I'll go here and I'll click on this guy which is install. I'll save this and we will wait for these dependencies to be loaded. Once these dependencies are loaded, you will directly get activities so that your automation can directly connect to the AI Center, or in other words, it directly talk to the AI Center, right? Meanwhile, this is loading. What is we are going to do here is we will take this feedback, all this feedback one by one from this Excel. We are going to pass this feedback to the model and we are going to get the sentiments, that whether it is positive, whether it is negative, and whatever the feedback is, we are going to put it into this front of this here, right? That whether what was the feedback positive, what was the feedback negative, and what is the percentage, right? Because we want to give the user some insights that how is this app behaving, right? So it's still restoring. We'll just wait for this restoration to complete. Once that is done, now I can go to the activities, right? And in here, in the installed here, you would have now this guy which is called the ML, and inside the ML you have all these different options, right? Storage, services, and the data labeling. I am interested in this guy which is called the ML skill. Drag and drop it here, and this is the activity which we are going to use to connect to that skill which is deployed. See here, ML skill. The name of my skill is this one, app review for sentiment analysis, right? Now this activity is asking me, how do you want to connect? Do you want to connect via the robot or do you want to connect via the endpoint, right? If I select endpoint, it is going to ask me the URL and the API key which we directly get from the AI Center, as we discussed in the previous video, right? But as of now, I am connected to the same orchestrator tenant, so I can always go here and select this guy which is the robot, which means that go ahead and get the skill directly from the robot which is connected to this one, right? So you should be connected to the same orchestrator or the same tenant where you have applied the enterprise license in order to use this one which is the robot, right? Now if I go here and I click on this small refresh button, it will go and it will just do a quick refresh, right? Now I can click on this small button here which is the search, and in the drop down you see I am getting all the skills which are deployed, right? This is one of the old skill which I have already deployed. So for us, we are using this one, app preview underscore sm underscore skill. Okay. So now if I go back to my AI center, and in the ML skill, you will see the same name, which is the app review SM skill. And that is the same name which we have used in our ML skills as well. In the ML skill, you also has an option to test the skill. So I can go here and I click on this button which says test the skill, and this will open a wizard where you can provide any input and test the skill. For example, I am saying that, let's say I love this app, right? And I say test the skill. So what will happen, that based on this, it is going to judge the sentiments. So I click on test the skill, and we'll just wait for the sentiment analysis model to fire up, and you can see that it is saying that yes, it is positive and 42% confident, right? So this is how the skill work. Let's try to give some other output, something negative output, something like that. This is the worst app. Okay. And then let me try to test the skill. So this is quite a negative feedback, and you can see that the sentiment is very negative, and it is 100% confident that yes, it is a very negative feedback, right? So the output here is the sentiment as well as the confidence. Now what I'm going to do is I'll just copy this output and I will just paste it in a notepad file, because this thing we would require to write the code and extract this information, right? So I'll just copy paste this thing, the format, in a notepad, and then we are going to use it, right? So I'll come back here and I'll simply close this. Now here this activity is asking me for input of the ML skill, right? That where exactly is our input, and our input is in the Excel file in the feedback column, right? So that means that now we need to read the input file. So I'll go and I'll take an activity called read range, right? Read range workbook. I'll drag and drop this activity here, and then we'll try to read the workbook, right? So it is asking me where is the Excel path. So I'll click on this browse button, and then I'll try to directly read the Excel, right? So as of now, if I go to the project folder, right, the file is located into the data folder. So I'll just select that, and it should automatically get the path, right? So now next thing it is asking me what is the sheet name, right? So let's go back to the Excel, and the sheet name is data. I'll go here and I'll put data in double quotes, right? And then it is asking me what is the range. So I want to read the complete data from the sheet, so I'll put double quotes, and that should read the complete data, right? Now I'll go to the properties, and I will make sure that I click on this one, which is add headers, because if I go back to the Excel, you would see that we have the header, and the data which we are interested is the feedback column, right? And then in the output, I'll hit Ctrl+K, and I will create a data table called dt underscore data and hit enter, right? So that should create the input data table for me and read the complete data in that. Okay, this should give me the data table. Now if I go to my Excel file, you would notice that all this is a different row. That means I need to iterate the data in a data table so that we can get the individual feedback, right? So I'm going to take an activity which is called for each. So I will take this one, which is for each row in a data table, right? So because I have the data table, drag and drop it here, and now it is asking me where is your data table. So my data table is in the DT data, and in the current row we should get all the row one by one, right? And then all of this thing we have to pass it to the ML skill. So I'll just drag this ML skill inside the body, right? So that way I would be able to run it one by one, right? Now let's talk about what is the input, right? So now the input is coming in this column, which is the feedback. So I'll just take the header name, which is the feedback, and into the item where I'll just expand it for you, and current row will give me the current row for the data table, and into the double quotes we have to pass what is the column. In our case it is the feedback, and then we want is it a string. So I'll just put dot to string. Okay, and then click on the save, right? So that way now all that feedback will loop one by one, right? And the output here would be a JSON response. So we'll hit Ctrl+K, and I'll create a variable called response and hit enter, right? So that way that JSON variable would be automatically created for me, which will have this same data which we pasted in the notepad. So the response from the ML skill would give us two things. One is the sentiments and other is the confidence. And let's say we want to write it back to our Excel file, let's say in the column E and the column F. Okay. So now if you see the output for the ML skill, which is the response, if I go to the variable, you will see that it is in a string, right? And the response is a JSON, right? So that means I need to convert that string to JSON, right? So if I go to the activity and if I simply search here JSON, right, you would see that in the available it is showing me two options, deserialization and JSON array. Right now if I go to the project dependencies, you would notice that I don't have anything which is added for JSON. Now you might be thinking how it is coming. That is coming because into the filter of the activities I have made this available to true. Okay, now if I simply hover my mouse on the deserialization, you can see that it is showing UiPath.WebAPI.activities, that this is part of this package, right? So we can go to the project, right click on the dependencies, manage, and in the all packages I can simply use the same activity, which is UiPath.web, right? If you could have simply dragged and drop it, then also the dependency will be automatically loaded, right? So the whole idea is you just need a dependency which is UiPath.WebAPI.activities. Okay, so I have just installed it and we'll just wait for the dependencies to load. Okay, now the dependency is loaded successfully, and now if I go to the activities and if I search for this guy deserialization, it should be there, right? So I drag and drop it here, and this guy is here, deserialize JSON, right? Now this is asking me where is the JSON string, right? And the JSON string is in this one, which is the response. So all you have to do is just pass that response here, right? Now the output of the deserialization, if I go and click on the properties, you would see that it is giving me something which is called JSON object. So I hit Ctrl+K and I'll create a variable called JSON object, right? Now from the JSON object, the JSON object will have exactly this thing which we pasted in the notepad. It would have two things. One is the sentiment and other is the confidence, and we are interested in the sentiment and the confidence, right? So all we now has to do is extract this information from the object, right? And to do that, I'll just go to the activities and take something which is called an assign activity. Just take one assign activity, and here I'll just create a variable, hit Ctrl+K and create a variable called, let's say, feedback, or maybe we can call it sentiments, right? Yeah, sentiments, right? So that would be easy for me. So I'll just call go back to the for each, my bad, sorry. In this one, let's call it sentiment, right? So it's easy for us to recall, right? So I'll just create a variable which is called sentiment, and now this is asking me where is the sentiment, and the sentiment is inside the JSON object in this key, which is the sentiment. So I'll open the value, and here let me just zoom it a little bit. I'll just use the JSON object, right, which is the object which is having that complete value sentiments, right? And in here you just have to simply put a dot, okay, and then you have to select the token, which token you want, right? And we have two tokens. One is the sentiment, so in the colon, if you go back, you see that this is the token which is the sentiment, which is in double quotes. So just copy the exact same name, and in the token, what token you require, in the double quotes pass that token sentiment, right? And sentiment is a string, so I'll just go here and hit dot to string, right? So all I am telling is from the JSON object, give me the token for sentiments, right? So I'll just select dot to string, and once this is done, just click on this button which is save, right? And that should give me this sentiment. Okay, so I'll go back and I click on this button, save. Similarly, like sentiment, I want one more confidence, so I'll take one more assign activity, and this time we'll do it for confidence, right? So I'll create a variable for confidence, hit Ctrl+K and call this variable as confidence, right? And the same way we'll just expand this value, same like it would be again into the same JSON object. So the same syntax, JSON object, and then put a dot. Let me just put it like this. Okay, put a dot, select token, and then in the bracket this time we will use not the sentiment, sorry, we're going to use this guy, which is the confidence, right? So go back here and we'll just put the confidence, right? We'll just remove this extra double quotes, and same like that, I'll just go here and I'll put something which is called dot to string. Okay, and then click on this button, which is the save. So now we should have the sentiment and the confidence in these two variables, sentiments and the confidence, right? And that we want to write into the column E and the column F. Okay, so we have to write it back to the Excel, right? And these are two different cells. So I'm going to the activities and I'm going to take an activity called write cell, drag and drop it here. I'm using the write cell workbook. Okay, write cell workbook is asking me where is your workbook path, right? So the workbook path, if I just go one step back, right, and this is the workbook path, right? So I think it would be better if you store this as a variable, so make it more dynamic, right? So I'll go to the assign activities and take an assign activity, right? I'll drag and drop it here, and we want to make the dynamic, so I'll create a new variable, hit Ctrl+K, and I'll call this as the Excel path, right? So that we don't have to copy paste and hard code the values, right? So I'll pass this read range and I'll pass it to the value, right? So now into the read range, I'll just pass the Excel path, which is having the complete part of the Excel, right? And now all I have to do is just pass this Excel path directly to our write cell activity as well, right? So I'll just go here and I'll pass Excel path. Okay, now similarly it is asking me what is the sheet name. So the sheet name I'll just put as data, and now it is asking me what data you want to write, right? So first try to write the sentiments, which is this. So I'll just pass here and write sentiment, right? Next it is asking me where is the cell. Okay, so let's go back to the Excel and let's say I want to write it in this one, right? So the first record it would be in this cell, which is the D2, right? For the next one it should be D3, for the next one it should be D4, right? So if you notice here, the D is constant, the only thing which is changing is 2, 3, 4, right? So that's how we have to write the logic, that this number get automatically incremented, right? And to write that, it's absolutely simple, right? So if you go to the for each, right, which is this one where we are looping the data table, the for each has a property which is called index, right? So now here you just have to create an index. I'll hit Ctrl+K and create a variable called index, right? Once you create the index, this index can now be utilized to get the row number dynamically for each and every row into the data table. Now this index is a zero based index. What I mean by that, that for the first record it would be 0, 1, 2, 3, like that way the index would be keep on increasing, right? So I'll go to the cell and I'll just open it in advanced editor, and here I will say that the D is constant, right? We have seen that we want to write in the column D, so the column D is constant, right? So now the first thing is I want to have it in the second, right, D2. So the index for the first record is 0, so 0 plus 2, right? So that way it will become D2 for the first record, right? Now when it come in the next loop, the index will become 1 and the next record will become D3, D4, D5, D7 and so on, right? So D3 is a string, so that's why I'm writing here dot to string, and I'll just click on this button, which is same thing we have to also do for the confidence. So I'll again go to the activities and I'll again take the same activity, which is the write cell, for writing the confidence back to the Excel, right? So I'll sell this one, write cell workbook, right? The same thing it is asking me for the Excel, so I'll pass the Excel path. The sheet name is the data, right? And D capital data, and now it is asking me where do you want to write, what do you want to write. So this time I want to write the confidence. Again for the cell, what cell you want to write, right? So if you see here I was writing in the D. I'll just copy paste the same thing. The only thing which we would have to change is the column, right? Because the index is same. So I'll just copy paste it here, and instead of D I'll make it to E. So E2, E3, E4, it will save it like that. Everything goes as expected. We should get the sentiments and the confidence in the column D and in the column E. Okay, And now in case you don't understand index, I have this dedicated video available in the description for you to understand the index in detail. Okay, simply going to run the automation, and I will stop it after some time so that some of the records get populated and we are able to validate the records, right? So I have started the automation. It should read the Excel, get the sentiments, confidence, right? So if I go back to my UiPath Studio, let me go back to a studio, and you can see that the automation started. I'll go to the output and I can see that the automation has started, right? So now it would be writing the data back to the Excel. I'll just go and stop this because I just want to validate some of the records. Okay, so now let's go back to the project folder into the data, and let's try to see what data it is writing, right? And we can see that the data and the confidence is getting populated. Okay, feedback. So this one is very negative, right? And 5780 people have found it helpful, right? So this feedback talk about while adding the song to the post, it gives no result. Whenever I install the app, still it is the same issue. So this is a very negative feedback for the app, right? So let's try to find one more. So this one says that it is really a good app with a limited access popping up, and after some time it was gone, right? So that means it has a issue. They fixed it, and he's saying in the last line that that issue was really fixed, so it says thank you, right? So it's a kind of a neutral feedback, right? So that's why the model has categorized it as neutral, right? So that means that the sentiment analysis model is working fine. So now I'll just go here, close this Excel. I would say don't save, right? Now let's try to club this complete automation. So I'll go to main.xaml because that's the entry point of the automation, right? And let's try to club both the pieces of the automation, right? So I'll go to the project and I'll first take this XAML, which is scrape the data, right? And then after that we want to get the sentiments, right? From the scrape data, we'll just open the workflow because the scrape data is going to give us the Excel that would be the input for the sentiments, right? So here we are using the browser URL, right? And it is saving the data into data feedback.xlsx, but it is not going out of the automation workflow, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to create an out argument. I'll call it out underscore let's say Excel path, right? And this direction would be out because we want to give it out, right? And now to pass it out, I'll just go to the activity, take a assign activity, okay, drag and drop it after the right range, right? And here into the whatever path we have got data.feedback.xlsx, that we are going to pass to the out variable, which is out Excel path, right? And here we are going to pass the path of the Excel where it is getting stored, right? Please remember, we are not following any best practices here because that's not the agenda. The agenda is the sentiment analysis. Okay, so I'll come to the main and hit a quick save, Ctrl+S, and in the get sentiment we have noticed that we don't get any information, right? So I would like to add one log message so that we understand what is happening. Drag and drop a log message activity, maybe before the for each, right? Because I do not want to have it again and again. I'll set a info level log, and here I want to just write that the data is being read from the Excel and we are done with reading the data, right? So that I understand what is happening with the automation, right? I'll take the same log message and maybe at the end after the for each, right? Here I would like to have one more log message so that I understand when the automation completed, right? So I'll put the same log message, and this one I just write completed, right? So that I understand when the automation is completed, right? Completed. Okay, so let's collab this, and I would also like to do a very high level exception handling. So I'll go to get sentiments, and into the complete thing I would just like to surround it with try catch so that any exception I at least get a notification, right? And in the catch I will just add exception, system.exception, and in the exception I'll just add a log message activity. I'll set the log level to error, and I'll just mention some error so that I know what is happening, right? So I say that exception in the ML part, right? So I'll just maybe just write exception in getting the sentiments, right? So that way I understand what is happening, right? So I'll just log the exception dot toString, right? So that way any exception which is coming, I will have the details with me to figure it out, right? Okay, I'll just hit Ctrl+S, okay. and this completes. Let me go to the main. Okay, one more thing, right? In the get sentiments, if you remember, as of now we are hard coding the path, right? So let's quickly create an input argument. I will call that as in underscore excel path, right, to make it dynamic, right? And now that argument I would be passing directly to the Excel path, right? So whatever data I get from the first automation now directly comes to the Excel path, right? Hit a Control plus S, right? And now go back to the main. Now in the main, we have to pass the data from the first XAML to the second XAML, right? So in the first XAML, I'll click on this guy, which is import arguments, out Excel path, hit Control plus K and store it in a variable called, let's say, str underscore Excel path, right? And hit OK, and that will go to the input argument for the get sentiments, right? So in the input argument, I'll just go here and I say, I think not Excel path, it was str underscore Excel path, right? Sorry, my bad. Str underscore Excel path, and I'll say save, right? So by this way, we have now completed the automation. I'll close this. I'll close the scrape data. Okay. And in the project, let me go to this data folder, and I will just open this, and we will just make sure that the feedback.xlsx is deleted, and when we run this, it is blank, right? So I'll go and delete this. Okay, one more quick thing, right? In the scrape data, I would quickly like to know that how much data is extracted, right? So that we can keep a count, right? So I'll go to the activities. I'll take a log message activity, right? And I'll set it as an info level log, and set it to info. And in here, I would just like to print that how much is the data which is getting extracted, right? So I just go here and I say data count, and I'll just mention extract data table. Okay, let me just open this in an advanced editor. Yeah, here, dot rows dot count dot toString, and click on this button, which is the save, and that completes the automation. In a real-time automation, all these URLs and all would be coming from the config file. So please do watch the RE framework videos to better understand all of these concepts. Okay, so what I have got is I have got feedback from an Instagram app. You can use any other website which is having reviews, right? So these are all the reviews which we have got, right? Now in my project folder, I have a data folder which is blank as of now. So the whole idea is extract all these feedbacks from the website, put it into an Excel, and using the UiPath AI Center, try to get the sentiments for all the reviews and all the feedbacks, right? So let's go here and I'll just say run, right? If everything goes well, what should happen? The robot should go to this website. It will get all these feedbacks one by one, put it into an Excel. For each and every row, it will now go to the sentiment analysis, analyze the feedback. We are using our model which was non-retrainable, so we don't have to provide much of the stuff, right? So the automation is started. You can see at the green indicates that the automation is running, right? So in the background, what is happening? Extraction would be done first, put it into the Excel, and then it will get the data, passing to the AI model, validating it, and writing back the data to the Excel, right? So the automation completed. Let's go to the output first. You can see here the data count is coming as 20. The read data is done and the automation is complete, right? Let's go to the project folder. I'll go to the data. I'll say open. And you can see here this file is now created, which is the feedback. I'll just open this, and you can see here the data, the feedback, and what is the score, positive or negative, right? So all this is coming for you directly here, right? Now you might be thinking, Mukesh, why it has only extracted the 20 records? The reason for that is simple, because in my extract data table, while I was testing it something, I have changed this to 20, right? Initially it was 40, later I changed it to 20. So that's why it is extracting only 20 records, right? Okay, so that completes our implementation. This is what we needed. Now if you go back to the use case, this was the use case. Now looking at this feedback and this confidence, this will help my company to know that which are the feedback I should work upon, right? So it should work on the feedback which is very negative. They'll go here, they will read the data, and they will try to understand that what is wrong with the app, right? That's how it can improve its app, and the developer can directly use this as the metrics for their app development, right? Looking at this use case, you might have different ideas which will pop up in your mind that, hey, I can use this for the flight booking website, I can use it in my, let's say, shopping website, Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, right? Wherever you want to use it, the format is exactly so simple. One other use case which I wanted to give you is this: it could be something like a survey, right? You have done an employee survey where the employees have given you a lot of feedback. Now you want to see which feedback is positive, which feedback is negative, right? You might run some kind of survey by the HR, right, about the company, about a product. Wherever there is feedback, you can run this same model, right? Now where if the data is directly into the Excel, all you have to do is just you have to run the second part of the automation, which was get the sentiments, right? You just go here and directly pass the Excel path if you have directly the data in the Excel. But in case if the data is not in the Excel, then you have to use RPA to get the data into the Excel. So this is a perfect example of how RPA plus AI works together, right? So let's say take the example of the survey. If the survey is directly giving you the Excel, you directly run this workflow. But let's say the survey is coming into an email, all the responses are coming in the email. So now you will write an RPA robot which will go to each and every email, read the data, put it into the Excel, and that Excel again you will pass to sentiment analysis, right? So that's how RPA plus AI works together, right? And I hope you guys now have a lot of ideas. I would really appreciate your feedback on this video, and I would really like to hear about the use cases which you think can be made with this same RPA plus sentiment analysis, right? So I'll wait for your comments, and with that I would like to wrap this video here. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please do subscribe to the channel, and happy automation.